Welcome back, coin hunters. This Jefferson nickel looks completely ordinary, but one tiny hidden detail could turn this forgotten pocket coin into a discovery collectors would fight to own. First coin. The 1941 United States Jefferson nickel, a collectible American coin, became one of the most fascinating 5-cent pieces of the early 20th century because the 1941 Jefferson nickel appeared during a tense and uncertain chapter in American history, just before wartime changes would completely transform United States coin production. Millions of 1941 Jefferson nickels were released into circulation through banks, grocery stores, railroad stations, restaurants, and military communities. Yet very few people in 1941 could have imagined that certain surviving 1941 Jefferson nickel examples would someday become highly studied collectibles chased by serious numismatists. The 1941 Jefferson nickel featured the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, designed by Felix Schlag. But what makes the 1941 Jefferson nickel especially intriguing today is how dramatically condition, strike quality, and mint irregularities can separate one ordinary-looking coin from another. Many worn 1941 Jefferson nickels remain common, but sharply preserved 1941 Jefferson nickel specimens with strong detail, attractive luster, or unusual striking characteristics now command intense attention among collectors searching for overlooked treasures hidden inside old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten family coin albums. The 1941 Jefferson nickel was struck before the silver wartime nickels of 1942 through 1945, making the 1941 Jefferson nickel one of the final standard copper-nickel issues before wartime metal shortages forced the mint to alter the composition of American nickels. Philadelphia produced 1941 Jefferson nickels without a mint mark, while Denver struck the 1941 D. Jefferson nickel and San Francisco produced the 1941 S. Jefferson nickel, each location creating subtle differences that collectors still study carefully today. Some 1941 Jefferson nickel coins display weak strikes with soft lettering and faded Monticello details caused by heavy die use, while other 1941 Jefferson nickel examples show exceptionally sharp features, especially in Jefferson's hair and the famous steps beneath Monticello. Collectors closely inspect the 1941 Jefferson nickel for doubled lettering, clipped planchets, off-center strikes, die cracks, lamination flaws, and rotational errors because these unusual mint mistakes can dramatically increase collector interest. A seemingly ordinary 1941 Jefferson nickel can suddenly become extraordinary once magnification reveals hidden doubling or a striking anomaly invisible to casual observers. Over the decades, stories surrounding the 1941 Jefferson nickel have grown more dramatic as collectors uncovered rare examples inside inherited boxes, estate collections, and even loose pocket change. A lightly circulated 1941 Jefferson nickel with appealing surfaces and subtle mint variations may inspire illustrative market discussions ranging from $2,500 to $7,500, while stronger 1941 Jefferson nickel examples featuring rare die characteristics or impressive preservation sometimes generate conversations near $9,000 or even $10,000 in exceptional high-grade conditions. These values are never guaranteed and depend entirely on authenticity, rarity, collector demand, and professional grading. Yet the possibility alone continues fueling intense excitement around the 1941 Jefferson nickel series. For some people, discovering an unusually valuable 1941 Jefferson nickel feels emotionally similar to uncovering a hidden financial windfall or finding the down payment for a home inside a forgotten family keepsake. The emotional power of the 1941 Jefferson nickel comes not only from its possible value, but also from the realization that an everyday coin from 1941 survived decades of circulation and history before finally revealing its hidden importance. Collectors examining the 1941 Jefferson nickel understand that tiny details can completely transform collector value, because the difference between a common 1941 Jefferson nickel and a premium 1941 Jefferson nickel often comes down to microscopic characteristics. The reverse side of the 1941 Jefferson nickel receives enormous attention because the steps of Monticello are difficult to preserve sharply, and coins displaying strong uninterrupted steps are far scarcer than weakly struck examples. Some rare 1941 Jefferson nickel mint anomalies have inspired illustrative value discussions near $25,000 when paired with dramatic visual errors and excellent preservation, while other scarce collector-focused 1941 Jefferson nickel pieces have generated attention around $12,000 or $15,000 due to unusual surfaces, strong strikes, or low survival characteristics. Every 1941 Jefferson nickel tells a slightly different story depending on how it was struck, circulated, stored, and preserved through the decades. This unpredictability keeps collectors constantly searching through old collections because another extraordinary 1941 Jefferson nickel discovery could still happen at any time. Properly examining a 1941 Jefferson nickel requires patience, magnification, and careful observation, because many damaged or cleaned coins can appear valuable at first glance. Experienced collectors weigh the 1941 Jefferson nickel carefully to confirm proper composition standards and inspect the metal color for natural agging patterns instead of artificial brightness caused by harsh cleaning. The rim shape, strike alignment, and spacing of the letters on the 1941 Jefferson nickel can reveal hidden minting abnormalities, while doubled lettering or shifted design elements may indicate important die variations worthy of professional authentication. Specialists studying the 1941 Jefferson nickel also pay close attention to Jefferson's cheek, jawline, and hair because these areas often expose strike weakness or unusual die behavior. Professional grading services remain extremely important whenever a 1941 Jefferson nickel appears unusual because authentication protects collectors from altered coins, misleading appearances, and exaggerated online claims. Somewhere today, another forgotten 1941 Jefferson nickel may still be hiding inside ordinary change, waiting for someone to notice the tiny detail capable of transforming an overlooked 5-cent coin into a shocking collector discovery that no one expected. Next coin. The 1946 Jefferson nickel, a collectible American coin, entered circulation at a moment when the United States was emerging from the shadow of World War II. And although millions of Americans handled the 1946 Jefferson nickel without a second thought while buying newspapers, train tickets, coffee, or groceries, collectors decades later would begin realizing that this seemingly ordinary 5-cent piece quietly carried one of the most fascinating post-war stories in American coinage. The 1946 Jefferson nickel represented a return to the traditional copper-nickel composition after the wartime silver alloy nickels of 1942 through 1945, making the 1946 Jefferson nickel a symbolic transition coin tied directly to America's recovery and industrial shift after the war. Its surface may appear simple at first glance, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, but beneath that familiar design lies a surprisingly complex world of strike quality differences, subtle die variations, and overlooked mint abnormalities that continue to captivate modern collectors searching through old collections for hidden rarities that survived generations of circulation unnoticed. What makes the 1946 Jefferson nickel especially intriguing is the inconsistency found across different examples, because the mint was operating under changing post-war production conditions that affected die preparation, striking pressure, and overall coin quality in ways many casual collectors never notice. Philadelphia struck the 1946 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco produced the 1946 D Jefferson nickel and 1946 S Jefferson nickel, each developing subtle differences in texture, luster, and sharpness that advanced numismatists still debate today. Some 1946 Jefferson nickel examples reveal unusually weak strikes, where Jefferson's hair appears flat and Monticello loses detail, while others display bold definition with sharply separated architectural lines and deeply impressed lettering that immediately stand out under magnification. Collectors also search intensely for clipped planchets, die cracks, broad strikes, rotated dies, and doubled inscriptions, because the 1946 Jefferson nickel series contains a surprising number of minting irregularities that escaped into circulation during the hectic post-war production era, turning ordinary pocket change into objects of serious collector fascination decades later. As interest in vintage American coins expanded through auctions, estate discoveries, and online marketplaces, stories involving the 1946 Jefferson nickel began spreading among collectors who uncovered unusual examples hidden inside inherited boxes, forgotten bank rolls, and dusty family drawers where they had remained untouched for years. A single overlooked 1946 Jefferson nickel with attractive surfaces and uncommon die characteristics can suddenly attract enormous attention once certified by professional grading experts, especially when the coin retains strong original luster and minimal wear after surviving more than 70 years. For many collectors, the emotional power of the 1946 Jefferson nickel comes from the realization that such a small object once traveled through countless hands during a transformative moment in American history, only to emerge decades later as a possible rarity capable of changing someone's understanding of what ordinary money can become. Some collectors still remember stories of relatives spending rare nickels casually decades ago without realizing certain surviving pieces would eventually become highly sought after, creating the lingering feeling that another missed opportunity may still be hiding in plain sight inside everyday change. The most heavily studied part of the 1946 Jefferson nickel often becomes the reverse design, because the steps leading to Monticello are notoriously difficult to preserve sharply, and coins displaying fully defined steps are dramatically scarcer than weakly struck examples flattened by heavy die wear or circulation. Specialists examining the 1946 Jefferson nickel study every corner of the design under magnification, paying attention to rim thickness, strike alignment, spacing between letters, and even slight distortions in Jefferson's profile that could indicate unusual die movement during production. Some 1946 Jefferson nickel examples display faint but important doubling in Liberty or in God We Trust, while others show expanded rims or subtle off-center strikes that create visual tension impossible to duplicate intentionally. These tiny differences transform the 1946 Jefferson nickel from a common post-war coin into a miniature historical puzzle where every detail matters. And because no two major mint eras are ever exactly alike, collectors remain obsessed with discovering previously undocumented varieties capable of rewriting assumptions about the series. Once value discussions enter the picture, the fascination surrounding the 1946 Jefferson nickel becomes even more intense, because the market for rare and unusual examples has produced astonishing auction and private sale outcomes over the years. Certain notable 1946 Jefferson nickel coins with appealing preservation, strong strikes, or uncommon die features have generated collector discussions ranging from approximately $5,000 to $12,000 in specialized markets, especially when certified at higher grades by respected authentication services. More dramatic 1946 Jefferson nickel examples involving clear mint errors or rare striking anomalies have occasionally entered conversations around $20,000, while particularly rare error specimens with eye-catching visual characteristics have inspired reported outcomes near $35,000 among serious collectors competing for scarce material. These figures are never guarantees and always depend on authenticity, rarity, demand, and timing. Yet the possibility alone keeps collectors returning to old jars, inherited albums, and estate collections, hoping to uncover a coin capable of completely changing expectations. The excitement surrounding the 1946 Jefferson nickel grows even stronger when exceptionally preserved mint-state examples appear, because truly original coins with sharp details and untouched surfaces become increasingly difficult to locate as decades pass. Some high-end 1946 Jefferson nickel pieces with remarkable strike quality and strong collector demand have reportedly crossed the $50,000 level in elite auction settings, particularly when paired with unusually clean surfaces or scarce full-step characteristics that specialists consider premium quality. Even more dramatic are the unusual mistakes occasionally discovered within the series, including broad strikes, multiple striking events, severe die misalignment, or extreme planchet abnormalities that transformed ordinary production pieces into highly valuable collector anomalies. Certain unusual 1946 Jefferson nickel mistakes have fueled private sale and auction discussions approaching $75,000, creating stories that spread rapidly through the numismatic community whenever a newly discovered example surfaces unexpectedly from an old collection or forgotten family inheritance. Professional examination remains absolutely essential whenever a 1946 Jefferson nickel appears unusual, because cleaned, altered, or damaged coins can easily mislead inexperienced observers into believing they possess a fortune. Experts evaluating the 1946 Jefferson nickel begin by confirming the correct weight and composition standards expected for post-war copper-nickel issues, then carefully study the metal color for natural agging patterns instead of artificial brightness caused by polishing or chemical treatment. Strike alignment becomes another critical factor, because certain off-center or rotated examples can dramatically increase collector interest, while rim expansion may reveal striking pressure abnormalities that occurred during production. Letter doubling must also be examined carefully, because genuine double dies differ greatly from machine doubling or post-mint damage, and subtle distinctions visible only under magnification often determine whether a coin is ordinary or extraordinary. Authentication from respected grading companies protects collectors from impulsive decisions and provides a reliable understanding of rarity, preservation, and possible market significance before any sale or purchase occurs. The most extraordinary stories involving the 1946 Jefferson nickel emerge when extreme errors or nearly one-of-a-kind discoveries appear unexpectedly after remaining hidden for generations, because those rare moments remind collectors that important treasures still exist beyond museums and elite collections. A dramatic minting anomaly with exceptional preservation and undeniable authenticity can inspire reported outcomes near $100,000 when intense collector demand collides with extreme rarity, while certain extraordinary or historically significant 1946 Jefferson nickel discoveries have occasionally entered discussions approaching $120,000 in the highest levels of the numismatic world. Although such outcomes remain exceptionally rare and never guaranteed, they continue fueling the imagination of collectors who understand that remarkable finds still surface in ordinary places when least expected. Somewhere another overlooked 1946 Jefferson nickel may still be waiting inside an old box, hidden in a forgotten drawer or resting quietly among common coins, carrying a secret detail that could transform a simple 5-cent piece into one of the most shocking discoveries in modern American coin collecting history. Next coin. The 1963 D. Jefferson nickel, which is a collectible American coin, entered circulation during a fascinating period of American history when the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of coins to satisfy the demands of a rapidly growing economy. Yet hidden within those millions of ordinary-looking nickels were a handful of unusual pieces that would later capture the attention of serious collectors across the country. At first glance, The 1963 D. Jefferson nickel appears simple and familiar, carrying the calm portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and the image of Monticello on the reverse. But beneath that modest appearance lies a complicated story involving production pressure, die wear, strike inconsistencies, and rare minting mistakes that transformed select examples into highly desirable collectibles decades later. The Denver Mint struck vast quantities of the 1963 D. Jefferson nickel during an era when vending machines, diners, gas stations, and grocery counters relied heavily on 5-cent coins, meaning these nickels traveled through countless hands before collectors began carefully studying the subtle differences that separated ordinary pieces from extraordinary survivors hidden in circulation. One reason the 1963 D. Jefferson nickel fascinates collectors today is the surprising variation found between individual examples despite the massive production numbers. Some 1963 D. Jefferson nickel coins emerged with weak strikes that left Jefferson's hair smooth and the Monticello steps barely visible, while other examples display unusually bold details with crisp lettering, deeply impressed surfaces, and reflective luster that immediately stand out under magnification. The Denver Mint's production equipment occasionally created minor alignment shifts, die fatigue marks, and striking inconsistencies that introduced visual characteristics now heavily studied by specialists searching for overlooked rarities. Certain 1963 D. Jefferson nickel pieces reveal subtle doubled lettering around Liberty or In God We Trust, while others show broad rims, clipped planchets, or faint rotational misalignments that make experienced collectors pause the moment they notice them. What makes the hunt especially addictive is the fact that many of these unusual coins circulated quietly for years before anyone realized their significance, allowing rare examples to remain hidden inside old jars, inherited albums, and forgotten family collections long after they were minted. As interest in mid-century American coinage expanded, stories involving the 1963 D. Jefferson nickel began spreading through collector circles, especially after surprising discoveries emerged from estate sales and bankrupt rolls that had remained untouched for decades. A seemingly average 1963 D. Jefferson nickel with attractive tunning, sharp detail, and verified mint irregularities can suddenly become the center of intense collector interest once professionally authenticated. Some documented auction and collector sale results involving smaller but legitimate 1963 D. Jefferson nickel errors have ranged from approximately $3,000 to $10,000, particularly when the coin combines visible doubling or striking abnormalities with strong preservation. More unusual 1963 D. Jefferson nickel finds featuring dramatic visual characteristics or scarce production mistakes have occasionally generated reported outcomes near $18,000, creating moments where ordinary people realized they had unknowingly carried something potentially valuable for years. For many collectors, those stories create an emotional tension that never fades, because every overlooked coin represents the possibility of a missed opportunity capable of changing someone's financial situation unexpectedly. The most sought-after 1963 D. Jefferson nickel examples are often the coins that survived in exceptional condition, while also displaying rare characteristics difficult to duplicate or explain. Collectors examine the reverse of the 1963 D. Jefferson nickel intensely because the steps beneath Monticello remain one of the most difficult features to preserve sharply, and coins showing fully defined steps are dramatically scarcer than weakly struck examples flattened by circulation or worn dies. Some high-grade 1963 D. Jefferson nickel coins with impressive luster and nearly flawless surfaces have reportedly reached collector sale outcomes near $28,000. Especially when certified by respected grading services and paired with strong strike quality. Even more dramatic are the strong error examples involving off-center strikes, severe die shifts, or broad strike conditions that altered the appearance of the coin in unmistakable ways, with certain documented sales approaching $45,000 among serious numismatists competing for rare material. In the most extreme cases, mint-state 1963 D. Jefferson nickel errors with unusual preservation and visually striking abnormalities have entered conversations near $65,000, proving how dramatically rarity and condition can elevate an otherwise ordinary 5-cent coin. Proper examination of a 1963 D. Jefferson nickel requires patience and discipline because countless altered, cleaned, or damaged coins can appear unusual to inexperienced observers. Specialists begin by verifying the proper weight and metal composition expected for a genuine 1963 D. Jefferson nickel, then carefully inspect the surface color for natural agging patterns rather than artificial brightness caused by harsh cleaning or polishing. Strike alignment becomes especially important because slight shifts during production can reveal rare misstrike characteristics, while expanded rims may indicate abnormal striking pressure inside the mint presses. Letter doubling must be studied under magnification to distinguish authentic doubled dies from machine doubling or damage created after circulation, and experts frequently inspect Jefferson's cheek, jawline, and hair for signs of unusual die behavior invisible to casual collectors. Some rare misstruck 1963 D. Jefferson nickel examples have reportedly produced auction and private sale outcomes near $95,000 when dramatic minting errors combined with elite preservation, while extraordinary or nearly unique pieces have occasionally entered discussions approaching $110,000 among advanced collectors. Those remarkable results are never guarantees, yet they continue fueling the belief that another forgotten 1963 D. Jefferson nickel carrying a hidden secret may still be sitting unnoticed somewhere inside everyday spare change or an untouched family collection waiting to be rediscovered.